Welcome back to the Blue Door Pub Thunderdome for another boo on Andy Carlson, Minnesota's 87th best daily podcast, a show about everything and absolutely nothing at all. Saro is going on, coming right at your ass 5 days a week. Sitting shotgun is going to be James Koh of NFL Fantasy Live. It's going to be a good time. Talk a little bit of football, talk a little bit about James and his coming on up because, as we've said, umpteenth time, for the umpteenth time on the show, is that I always love and respect the hustlers, the people who are not afraid to bootstrap it and put their nose to the grindstone, not really complain about where they're at, but are focused on where they want to be and are just going to give it hell to get there. And see, that's the thing. Sometimes you don't make it. Sometimes you do, but you never know unless you're going to bust your ass. I mean, complaining is... What is complaining? Great analogy I always love. Complaining is like a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, except you never go anywhere. Yeah, love that. Tell a friend, spread the word, iTunes, Stitcher, iHeart Radio, and all that other good stuff. Follow me, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, all at Andy Carlson Show. Do that up. So, fantasy. This is one of the first years that I've gotten a jump on my fantasy stuff because I'm involved with Scott Fish, who was a guest on the show a couple weeks ago. His Fishbowl 7 just kicked off, and it's a draft where it's online, except it's kind of a hybrid of the way the drafts used to be, when it used to be all email, and each pick you'd have 24 hours to make, and then you send in your email. But this is an online interface, but you get 8 hours between picks, and it's a 720-team league. They're divvied up into 12-team sections, and mine is a little bit on the slower end. I think we've been through 5 rounds so far. By the way, I got Zeke, Fournette, Dalvin Cook, Dez, and Nuke. I think Nuke finally has a comeback year, so I'm pretty excited about that so far. And except some other leagues are already in the clubhouse because it just went so fast. Yeah, but usually my fantasy interest doesn't really get started until right about kickoff, and that's after the drafts happen. Yeah, and I'm always in a couple of leagues, but I never really fully care about fantasy until like week 4. Yeah, and some of my teams reflect it because I don't do my homework beyond the superficial. Hey, I have to get ready to do a 5-day-a-week football podcast. Other than that, so I don't know who's going to be getting all the carries down in Arizona or Miami, or how things are going to be split up, or who's going to be the 5th wide receiver in Carolina. Yeah, because that's something you need to know, especially in deeper leagues. But now this year, I'm pretty excited. I'm pretty engaged. But previous years where I get a late break, and then I get super dialed into things. Like I know who Lucky Whitehead is. Yeah, in a PPR league where you get points for return yardage. Yeah, Lucky Whitehead, very important. And then you make a late break, and usually what happens, I lose a couple of games, then make a big comeback, and then eke into the playoffs, and then who knows from there. But yeah, this year I'm going to take it a little bit more seriously. I've still pared it down. I think I'm going to be in 3 leagues this year, and one of them is my Dynasty League, where it's a 3-keeper. Well, it's keeper league, but I call it Dynasty, whatever. If it's not the correct term, whatever. And 2 of my keepers are Le'Veon Bell and David Johnson. This is the best league ever. I love it. So I'm pretty excited about that. Something you should be excited about as well is Soda Stick Co. They had some great deals going on, and also they got some new inventory. Skull shirts in some different coloring. They got white lettering this year, and also Touch 'em All hats as an homage to Minnesota baseball in 4 different styles. Get it at sodastickco.com, and again, promo code PurpleFTW, free U.S. shipping. So get that, and let's get some James Koh. Coming on into the Blue Door Pub Studios is James Koh, NFL Fantasy Live writer, and also the podcast. Now 2x per week. 2x. I mean, as a guy who cranks out 8 podcasts a week. I mean, don't strain yourself, guys.
Listen, pal, calm down over there. You're a machine. You're a workhorse. I get that. That's cool. But the fantasy podcast. I don't know. We're doing it twice a week. There's competing real estate there in the NFL media studio. So, we're going to twice a week, and plus, I'll tell you what, I could do more, but I feel bad for the other guys because they have to do written content as well. They have a couple different pieces of written content they do every week. So it is kind of a load for them. But we're excited about it, man. When we start going twice a week, that's when football is getting close, and then that's when you start getting excited. So
absolutely. I wanted to have you on because I have a profound respect for hustlers, and that's who I like to associate myself with. People, squirrels just trying to get a nut and whatnot. But also and I striking similarities. All right, so we're both hosts that surround ourselves with smarter people who actually do all the work, analytics-wise.
That's right.
And we're Korean, and also both of our daughters are watching a movie right now.
That is, all of those things are accurate. All of those things are accurate. Actually, it's funny. Like, for breakfast, she had Korean food, and then we just popped in Frozen, and then now I'm making this podcast appearance. So that is not an uncommon day for myself. So there you go.
Now, since we're on the Korean thing, we'll get to football, people, trust me. But so I was adopted, but I never tried kimchi until I was in college, so like 18, 19 years old.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Except it was like when speaking of Disney, when Jasmine first got on that carpet, and then they were taking the magic carpet ride. It's like a whole new world. It opened up.
Good. That's good.
Yeah. So I got some.
No, man. I mean, listen. It's not even the funny thing is, when you live in LA, it's not even a Korean thing. It's just like, bro, you just have to try it. I mean, it's like, honestly, it's much more common, obviously, here stateside. But I mean, it's like, have you not tried pickles? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's all it is. It's just pickled vegetables. They throw some spice on it. How about if I just told you, hey, I got a spicy pickle for you? People aren't going to think that's weird, but all of a sudden you say it's
I would ask how much.
And it's like, how much what?
How much for the spicy pickle? Or are we talking about like euphemisms here?
Oh man, I didn't know we were going to go down that road this early in the morning. So.
Hey, man, it's noon. It's noon here, baby.
Actually, that's a good point.
Yeah. All right, so
still in the AM here.
Yeah, wanted to backtrack a little bit. So you're a proud Cal Bear alumnus, but I wanted to get your overall arching story. Like, how'd you get from where you were to where you are now?
So I grew up I lived in Texas. I lived in Houston until I was about 10 years old, and then I moved over to California and been in LA. And it's funny because, I lived in Texas and Houston and all that for 10 years. And I still tell people this is why I sound like a middle-aged white man is because I grew up out there till I was 10. But, I've been in Southern California pretty much after that. And obviously I spent a lot of time in the Bay Area. And this job will take you on the road, man. So, I've been in Montana. I've been in, backwoods parts of California, and I know people don't know that exists, but it does.
Where they film Sons of Anarchy?
I've been, maybe. I don't know where they film it. I think they film it. Where the hell do they film it? Do they film it in Ventura? I think that's where it's based. But it doesn't matter. Anyways, I'm in the back country. Like it's like you got to drive 3 hours east to get to the ski resorts, and I'm like at the base of that. You know what I mean? Like that was one of my first radio gigs, was populated in this place called Bishop, California. Population, I think it was 10,000, and 5,000. Actually, the town had 5,000, but then there was an adjacent reservation town that was also 5,000.
Oh.
So it was about 10,000 in that local area. But I don't know, man. The job takes you places. So that part has been cool. But I tell you, if I had to do that now, I don't know if I could do it. But when I was a younger man, sure, I'm down. So, it's been a wild ride. It's been really cool, man. So, so Southern California, went up to the Bay Area, went to school there. And actually, the funny thing is, out of school, I had a sales job, and I worked a 9 to 5 QB for 2 years before I.
Please tell me it was something stupid you were selling, like in The Pursuit of Happiness when he's selling those bone density scanners, like the size of washing machines.
Oh man, can I tell you? I was doing high tech sales because it's the Bay Area, right?
Yeah.
So it's like high tech sales. So it's like some kind of like Cisco product, right? I don't know if I should be giving them a plug, but whatever, it doesn't matter. Anyways, the bottom line is I'm doing like tech sales, right? Yeah. And if you were to ask me what it was I was selling, I don't have a damn clue. 2 years I'm pushing this product. I don't know what it is. I literally do not know what it is. But
you need our SaaS product, man.
They tell you. I mean, here's the thing. If you can peddle something that you don't have a damn clue, you don't know what it does. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know. That's just how it was, man. And so, like, they give you the script. They tell you, okay, here's this and here's the competitors. Here's your contact list. Go hit the phones. And that's all it was. It was just hitting the phones. I mean, so, it was just a straight numbers game, man. So I don't know. I did sales for a couple of years, so I don't know. I never really. And I'll tie it all back into my career though. So I grew up in a small family or a small business household. Okay. Mm. So both my parents were small business owners.
Dry cleaner or nail salon?
Nah, actually, they imported and exported costume jewelry. So like the fake stuff you'll find at like Nordstrom's or whatever. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like that's what they did. So that's the product they pushed, right? So like, and they did well doing that. Anyway, so coming out of squat, I mean, the dirty little secret is 90% of people just do what their parents did. You know what I'm saying? Mm. So like, they were in business, so I was like, all right, whatever. I guess I'll just be in business. Even though in college I did, I did the radio, I did play-by-play, I had a show, I did sports, but I never thought of it as a, professional career path. But after a couple of years, in that cubicle life, I was just like, man, you know what? Let's just chase it and see what happens. Yeah. Let's just see what happens. So that's basically what happened. And, I started moonlighting at night. I was like literally like an intern at night. Working at a sports radio station, and just grabbing coffee, making copies and answering phones and, just shadowing a guy. And then after a while, I put a tape together, gave it to that host. And I was like, look, man, will you just give it a listen and just let me know what you think? So he gave it a listen. He's like, look, obviously it's pretty rough, but I really see a lot of potential and you should really, see what happens, just put your tape out there and see what happens. So that's what I did. So my first job was from San Francisco to Montana in a little place called Havre, population 5,000. And I was there for about, I think like 8 months or something. And then from there went to Bishop, California, like I said. And, it just, for me, it was a situation where that small town life was fine, but I really, really wanted bigger and better things for myself. Mm-hmm. And I didn't see that in radio at that time. But anyways,
you could have been Havas like number one FM morning zoo DJ. JK in the morning.
You know what? I could have been. But alas, I was not. No, look, man, this is the other thing. When those first couple jobs in radio, it's not just sports, man. They want you to do everything, right? You got to be. So I remember they approached me and they're saying, hey, you've got to be our AM country music DJ. And I'm like, brother, I would love to take this job. I have not listened to country in 20 some odd years.
Who knew that Clint Black was a white guy?
And right. And the guy says to me, listen, can you just press play and can you fake it? And I was like, yeah, I can do those things. And he's like, all right, great, you're hired. So I don't know. That's kind of how I got onto my journey. But yeah, it was like AM country music DJ. Actually, as a matter of fact, in Montana, I literally had to turn on the radio station. it was off. It was dark from like 1 to 4 a.m. or something, right?
Yep.
So then like I come in at 4 a.m. and literally turn it on. So yeah, that was kind of a trip. Anyway, so then, did that. And then in the afternoon I had to like write ad copy. And then, in the late afternoon, if time permitted, I could, do a handful of, basketball games or something, play by play. So it just was, man, it was a grind. But you know what the crazy thing was that I was happy doing it.
Yeah.
I was totally happy doing it. Because it was something that I wanted to do, and I was pursuing something that I wanted to do professionally, and I was totally content doing it. So I didn't really have a problem with them. Those 6 or 8 months or however long I was there in Montana, they flew by.
Yeah.
So
and that's what you get.
I don't have any complaints.
When you're actually in an industry that you love. You talk to everyone who's actually made it big in sports media. You look at Dan Patrick, Peter King, all the luminaries, and they always look back fondly to that 600-watt AM station in Dayton when they're pressing play and just pressing buttons like that. It's like, yeah, because you're doing what you love to do. And I love that you were working in sales at the beginning. I have a background in finance and still have a foot in that realm to pay the bills because sports is kind of tough to pay the mortgage. But it's going all in on something that you love doing that you would do ostensibly for free. It's something that you're never going to regret.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Although with there's so much turnover in sports media. I mean, Fox Sports sort of shutting down their writing department, going all video on the thing. It's tough to get a toehold, but doing the legwork to try and do that, you got to love what you're doing.
Yep. 100% agree. And it's like, if you don't have that passion to literally just go and put those 8 hours in and put those 10 hours in, put those 12 hours in, you're not going to be long for this business. You know what I'm saying? What I find is that a lot of young people who try to get into the business feel like they're passionate. They feel like they're passionate about it.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And what they do is they spend a lot of time, I don't know, strategizing about doing something without actually doing something.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So and it's like anytime I talk to a young person trying to break into sports, the number one question I ask them is, okay, so you want to be a writer? And they're like, yeah. All right, so are you writing something every day? Well, no, I mean, and it's always no.
Yeah.
It's always no. It's like, oh, I want to do a podcast. Okay, well, are you doing a podcast every day? No. Okay, well, I want to be on air. Okay. So are you putting out a YouTube video every single damn day?
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, I mean, I need to have an opportunity. No, you don't. Like, that's the beautiful world that we live in today, is that, no, you don't actually need to be on professionally to do work every single damn day. And so I guess that would be my advice is always the same to young people, which is just, if you want to do something, man, like it's so easy in today's world to go and do that damn thing every damn day.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not, I tell you what, somebody else is, and you're getting behind. So I don't know. To me, it's pretty clear that that's what you've got to be doing. And that's what, and the funny thing is, that's what I was doing when I was 25, 26 years old, right? Like, mm-hmm. I'm in my house, I'm in my apartment with a tape recorder, just recording myself doing games every damn day. My roommates absolutely hated me for it. But, oh, well, that's what I had to do.
Yeah. And
so, I don't know.
Yeah, because with this whole podcast thing, I've been doing it for a bunch of years now, and got some sponsors, got some clout, got some numbers, and all that good stuff. So occasionally I get people coming up or shooting emails like, "Hey man, I want to do a podcast too." I'm like, "Well, why aren't you doing one? Just do it for free. Just do it for free, and your grandma might listen." Then the answer always is, "Why would I do that?"
I don't know, man. I don't get it. Actually, I do understand part of it too. It's like, I think people are scared to take that first step and scared to actually put themselves out there because rejection sucks.
Yeah.
again, tying back to the whole, business thing, it's just once you get down this whole, and Andy, at this point, right? You're selling your podcast. How many no's are you going to get before you get that one yes? And it doesn't matter. You can't be deterred by these no's, right? So, that's where the whole sales background thing comes in, where it's just I can go to 10 different interviews and 9 people can tell me I suck. But I am completely undeterred because I believe in myself. I just need that one person to be like, this guy might actually be something. And that's how it's always been in my career.
Kind of insulting that they started off the meeting with that, though. You suck. What do you have for us? But yeah.
But, it's these interviews I go into, for television or whatever. I don't know. If you've ever seen me on, the network or, wherever you might have run across my work, I'm not your, prototypical sports anchor guy, and I've always kind of approached it as, look, I just got to be myself. And I know it can be a bit abrasive. It's definitely not for everybody. I'll put it to you that way. It's definitely not for everybody. I think the way I approach my podcast, definitely not for everybody. The way I approach my writing, definitely not for everybody. But it's me.
Yeah.
And if you dig it, then cool. And if you don't, dude, listen, man, you keep rocking on because there's plenty of stuff out there for you if I'm not your cup of tea.
Yeah. And the whole thing about being yourself on camera, on air, in your writing, it's because that's easiest to do. Because if you're trying to put up a facade and you're trying to do your best Ted Koppel or Bill Simmons impression every time you're putting out content, that's going to get tiring, and eventually your own brand is going to get lost in the wash.
Totally true.
Yeah.
100% true. And like I said, I just think for me it's it's really interesting for me because this whole process, the whole media thing, it's I don't know how long I've been in it, maybe 10 years now, but the whole process is just figuring out who you are. Who am I? You know what I mean? It's like you said, you name all these bigwigs like Ted Koppel, Bill Simmons, all these. It's of course when you're early on, it's hard not to be severely influenced by those type of people. And that will come through in your early work, but it's you just whittling away, shaving away, to get to the core of who you actually are. And that's what this whole process is. And that's what I find so fascinating about it,
Yeah, absolutely. And to put a bow on this and dive into some fantasy, you see that hard work does pay off when people put in the work and are good people, like Matt Money Smith over there on NFL Network. He's now the play-by-play guy for the Chargers, who just moved to L.A. That's fine.
Yeah.
But he's been grinding out there for years, Petros and Money, and before that, he was the intern at K-Rock. He was Carolla and Damashek's intern, way back in the day. And then you look back, it's it took 12 years, 15 years to become an overnight sensation.
That's such a great way to put it, man.
Yeah.
It really is, because, it's if you hadn't heard of Matt Money Smith, it's over the last 3 or 4 years, it's holy cow, Matt Money Smith is everywhere now. But yeah, you're right. It's been a long, hard, let me just say, man, I work with the guy. I work with him at a couple different places because I work with him at NFL Network. And then I also work with him at the radio station. And I've seen him work. There is no one who is a harder worker than this guy, man. He hustles his ass off. There is nobody who works harder than this guy. Now, there might be some people who work just as hard, but let me tell you, man, Matt Money Smith, this dude grinds, and it is unbelievable the amount of time and effort that he puts into his job. So, man, everything that he has gotten professionally, he has earned. So nothing but respect and props to Matt Money Smith. Trust me, this guy did not get handed jack. He has earned everything.
But James, he was gifted those beautiful golden vocal cord pipes. So that's he's got voice privilege.
He does.
Yeah.
I tell you what, man, those pipes, what the F, man. Yeah, he's got a great voice. A great voice.
All right. So diving into some fantasy talk. I'm always a late breaker when it comes to getting into fantasy. Like, I actually really don't care about my leagues until about week 3. Now, I understand that that's bad. But
that's not good.
Yeah. Give me a couple of the headlines that are going into the draft that people should know about.
Well, last year it was all about going wide receiver heavy, right? And I think this year that's kind of sort of flipped on its head. The top 3 picks, it's a consensus. It's just, what's your flavor? What's your cup of tea? It's David Johnson. It's Zeke Elliott. It's going to be Le'Veon Bell. Those 3 guys are going to go at the top, like the top 3 picks of 99% of drafts. I mean, maybe, I don't know, maybe if you're in Green Bay and you just love Aaron Rodgers or something, I don't know. But the bottom line is those 3 guys are going to go, at the top of pretty much everyone's draft board. And then after that, it's still very, very, running back heavy. So I think this year, and I just actually finished writing a full running back kind of primer piece that kind of gives you the starters, projected starters for all 32 teams, the projected handcuffs, and then like a dark horse / PPR option that might be available as well. But kind of going through that list, I was actually surprised by how many stable backfields there are, because the only thing you hear about nowadays is, it's all backfield by committees. It's all running back by committee in the NFL. And it's like, actually, if you really go through it team by team, there's actually quite a few workhorses and a lot more than I remember in previous years. I mean, because people even point to the Tennessee Titans as saying, okay, somehow, some way they have a backfield. Bruh, DeMarco Murray ran the ball nearly 300 times last year. That is not a freaking committee. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, Derrick Henry got another 100 as well, but that's such a classic, you know what I'm saying? Like a classic lead dog and then, backup role. It's like, I mean, that is not a committee at all. So I don't know. I kind of look around the league, and there's probably a good 10 teams that have lead dogs. And then there's probably another 10 teams that have maybe a committee, but you kind of know how it's breaking down. So it's not as, it's not surprising at all. However, that backfield work shakes out. So I think, to me, it's been surprising kind of going through and seeing how, stable most of the backfields are actually in the NFL.
A backfield that actually might be a committee is my hometown team, the Minnesota Vikings. How do you see it shaking out between McKinnon, Latavius, Shertavius Murray, and the rookie Dalvin Cook?
Yeah, Dalvin Cook obviously has very, multifaceted skills. What he showed in college was that he's good between the tackles, and he's a fantastic receiver out of the backfield. It's interesting to me, right? Because then there's Latavius Murray, who they signed to a pretty big free agent deal, and he's there, and he has the athletic profile. He's a big body. Certainly, you would think worst case scenario for Dalvin Cook is that he's going to be a running back that's going to be utilized between the 20s, and Latavius Murray will get in there and shoulder most of that goal line work. I think that's how most folks would view that backfield. It's very possible that Dalvin Cook really shows out in training camp and just straight up earns the bulk of the work, even near the goal line. I mean, it's in the modern NFL, and I don't know, I take that back. Just in NFL history, there have always been backs that have been, specially utilized, and Latavius Murray could enter into that role. Dalvin Cook is that special that, even as a rookie, he could, again, be the full-time starter, shoulder most of the workload, and kind of force these other guys into very small ancillary roles as well. Jerick McKinnon is a guy too. I mean, he's there, right? I mean, this guy is fantastic out of the backfield, a phenomenal athlete. He's got quicks, man. So the backfield is pretty loaded. They've got three very good options at running back. Unfortunately, will the offensive line hold up? And I think that's a major question mark going into 2017, because as we saw in 2016, man, that line got ravaged, and they were arguably the worst in the league.
Yeah, but hey, TJ Clemmings is moving to guard, so we're good.
We're good.
Yeah.
Isn't it funny, too, because Minnesota for so long had, stalwarts on the offensive line, and they were so good up front for so long that I don't know. It's like, man, this is not your older brother's Minnesota Vikings team. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, we didn't have guys that poison pill like Steve Hutchinson back in the day, or Bryant McKinney, who is, speaking of gifts from God, for a guy who gave zero craps about football, to be able to just have the body to be the perfect left tackle for a number of years, amazing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I think Phil Lodeholt was there for a number of years too, right?
Yeah, Big Phil, and then he popped into Achilles and tore a pec, and we're like, oh, yeah, things do fall apart on a 370-pound man.
Yeah, I know, man. But, yeah, obviously Steve Hutchinson there for a number of years was just – yeah, so, it's just – I don't know, man. It's like it's crazy to kind of see because, like, there was a good, like, decade where you were like, okay, you just pencil in Minnesota Vikings offensive line. They'll be fine. You know what I mean? And now it's just such a question mark, and it's really, truly – the weakest part of the entire team. The defense is loaded. They look great. Quarterback obviously is not wonderful, but at the end of the day, you got a guy in Sam Bradford that's at least managing that position all right. Wide receiver, I like their wide receivers. Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen, that's a great 1-2 combination. Now, I wouldn't necessarily say it's, one of the better combinations in the league, but I think they can get it done, especially when you add in an athletic big body like Kyle Rudolph. It's not bad, So I think from a skill position-wise on offense, I think they're fine. Defensively, obviously, they're great. It's just that offensive line, man, and that's the trigger point for the entire offense, and it's very concerning.
Hey, but we brought Mike Remmers back, the guy in Carolina who polished up that Super Bowl MVP trophy for Von Miller. We got it made.
That's not good.
Yeah.
That is not good.
But Bradford, by the way, if you played in a very specific league that had PP completion percentage, point per completion percentage, you're golden.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah,
I don't know.
Right, exactly.
Nerds get into like really high tech.
Like I said, he's not a downfield guy. He's not a great playmaker. But he makes enough plays. I don't know. Look, you could do worse at quarterback is what I'm saying. Obviously, you could do a hell of a lot better, too. But it's like you could do worse at quarterback. And how he survived and how he, stayed healthy last year behind that O-line, I will never know. That's going to be one of the great mysteries of 2016. But, man, he somehow did it. He managed it. And we'll see. I don't know. I'm really hoping Teddy Bridgewater gets healthy, and I know a lot of Minnesota Vikings fans are feeling that way too. So this year sounds like it's going to be another lost year for Teddy. Hopefully he gets right, and we start really seeing some work maybe midway through this season, and showing signs of being on the road to recovery for 2018. But I don't know. I think he's a fine young man, and I like the work ethic that he's put in. So it'd be great to see him get back on the field.
Yeah, you could take any injury like that, where your leg basically falls off, like in any field, like, and be back to work after 2 years. Like you could be a bricklayer who had just like a wall of bricks just fall and break your. Yeah, you'd be all right with that. And Teddy's super young. That giving him 2 full years to get that leg right and get some confidence back, I think that's the best course of action.
I would agree. Don't rush him back. I mean, there's really no point. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Yeah, with that horrific knee injury, I think you need 2 years. You know what I mean? You need a year to get healthy, and then you need a year to be a professional football player again. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that would be that. I don't know. Yeah, it doesn't sound like they're rushing him back, which is probably the right way to go.
Smooth segue to the guy who completely warped our sense of coming back from ACLs, Adrian Peterson, down in New Orleans now.
That's right.
What the? Why? So Adrian, I have some strong feelings about Adrian, but he had 2 options: get paid in the offseason or chase a ring, and then he signed up in New Orleans, and he's going to do neither.
First of all, let me just say I contend that I don't think he could have gotten paid. There wasn't a situation in the league where he could have gotten paid, $8-9 million. There's just I don't think that existed for a 32-year-old running back coming off of a meniscus injury. Just to me, I don't think that existed for Adrian Peterson. I know that their camp would like you to believe that was the case.
Yeah.
But it just wasn't there. You know what I mean? So especially given this draft was so loaded at running back that's it deflated the market. I was actually surprised Latavius got the deal that he got. Mm-hmm. Considering the all the draft pieces that were out there. I mean, my God, I'm going through and I'm looking at some of these running backs. It is incredible. Some of the rounds that these guys have fallen into. But going back to Adrian Peterson, to me, New Orleans, it would have made a hell of a lot of sense 5 years ago. Mm. You know what I'm saying? Today, I don't know. I mean, they had a guy in Mark Ingram that was a bell cow. I thought he was very effective last year. So now you enter in, Adrian Peterson into the mix. And then they go and spend a high draft pick on Alvin Kamara, which, I'm just like,
ooh, traded up for.
What are you guys doing, Saints? It doesn't make sense to me. Like, you guys have so many other needs. You just signed Adrian Peterson. What are you doing, Saints? Saints, what are y'all doing? I don't get that. And again, if you're Adrian Peterson too, you just spent 2 seasons now trying to get used to a more spread style offense. And it didn't work. You need to be in a power system, and you signed with a spread team. Mm-hmm. If you're Adrian, maybe it's the only deal that was out there. I don't know, but to me, I don't really understand what role Adrian Peterson fills with that team. He's an average receiver out of the backfield, and I think that's putting it generously. And again, he is just, to me, the number one thing is he has struggled so mightily in the shotgun and in spread. I don't get it. I really, really do not get it. So I didn't get that signing whatsoever for the team. I didn't get the signing whatsoever for Adrian Peterson. Hell, I would have loved to see him go to Denver. Mm-hmm. Honestly. I love C.J. Anderson. Obviously, he went to Cal. He's my boy. But realistically, though, especially with Mike McCoy going over there now, and we know that he likes to run that power, a little bit of power. So that would have been a great fit. A good defense with Adrian Peterson behind a power run game. Come on, sign me up. But maybe they weren't interested. I don't know. Instead, they went with Jamal Charles, which I tell you what, I wish they would have flipped teams. I wish Jamal Charles would have gone to the Saints. That would have been a great fit. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. I don't know who, Adrian's reps are or what he was thinking or whatever it might have been, but I don't think it's a great fit. And in fantasy too, I cannot see myself investing in Adrian Peterson at all, especially at his given draft price, which is, I think it's like in like the 8th or 9th round, which is just, it's bananas. It's craziness. I'm like, no, don't invest that draft capital on Adrian Peterson in 2017. If he was in the 14th round, of course, sign me up. Mm-hmm. But he's not there. He's going in the 8th or 9th round, which is just, to me, that's insane. I can't do it. I cannot get on board with Adrian Peterson in the single-digit rounds.
Adrian was going to sign with Denver, except he has 2 allergies: shellfish and playing with quarterbacks who look like out-of-work magicians, and that's what Paxton looks like.
Yeah, you know what? You're right. Actually, he looks like a guy that does the 3-card Monte in Venice. That's what he looks like. He's got the whole mustache thing going on, and it's like, bro, this is, I hate to say it, but this is not really what starting quarterbacks look like. It's a little bit odd. I don't know.
Pick the red, get ahead. Pick the black, set your back. Yeah. Does Adrian break 100 fantasy points this year?
100 fantasy points. I don't know. I hate predicting points because it's like that's such a weird combination of yards and touchdowns. I'll give you a yardage and a touchdown projection. I guess I don't know if it'll get to 100 points. but I think he gets to about, I think he puts in like 700 yards total and optimistically 6 touchdowns. And I think that's being optimistic. I think it's more in line with something like 4 or 5. So that's just kind of where I would be with Adrian Peterson. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out what role he's going to play on the Saints. What does he do that Mark Ingram doesn't already do, and that Mark Ingram already doesn't do better at this point in their careers? And he's not going to be a passing down guy. That's Alvin Kamara, right? So now we're talking about splitting first and second down work with a guy who's younger and in his prime. So I'm really struggling to figure out where the hell what he's going to do to make hay in that offense. But I think a realistic projection would be like 705. I think that would be a pretty realistic projection. And honestly, it could be worse. There's a lot of smart football people that say it could be better too, but I don't know. I don't see how he gets there. I don't see how he gets to 1,000 yards. I just don't see it.
Here's my prediction, because I don't think it's coincidence that he signed with the Saints as soon as the schedule dropped and the Vikings are playing the Saints week 1. The Vikings dropped like a 40-burger on the Saints at home. So it's 40-13 late in the fourth. And then Adrian has like 17 carries for 9 yards and just crests like a late garbage touchdown in at the gun. And then he holds a press conference, hangs it up, and is like, I'm going out on top. Deuces.
Oh, I like this theory. Yeah. I like this theory a lot. Yeah. Hey, is that game on the road or where is it? Is it in Minnesota or is it in
Minnesota? Yep.
Oh, it's in. Oh, then there's no way in hell they're going to drop a 40-burger. No way. Saints on the road against that defense?
Oh, no. Vikings dropped the 40.
That. Oh, Vikings dropped the 40.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I see where you're going. Okay.
I have to be a little bit of a homer, you know?
Yeah. All right. I'm with you. James, I get it.
James,
I like it.
A couple more things, and then I'll get out of your hair for the day. Give me, if you had to put your name on one sleeper, just one deep guy that you got your strikes your fancy, who you got?
Well, how deep are we going here? I can give you a guy that's just insanely not deep, like Brian Hill.
Not quite danger zone, but just dipping a toe in. Dipping a toe.
Yeah, my danger zone sleeper this year is Brian Hill, by the way. Holy hell. I love that kid.
Wait, the Wyoming kid?
Atlanta. The Wyoming kid.
Yeah.
Have you? I've watched this kid's tape, and I love it. I love this guy in that one-cut system in Atlanta. And man, his measurables are sick. He's a big body that can move, very decisive, powerful runner. But man, he is certainly danger zone because obviously we know Freeman and Tevin Coleman are there in Atlanta, and they're going to get the work before Brian Hill. But anyways, just like a round 10 sleeper. Gosh, man, I don't know. I'm so deep into it that it literally doesn't even get me excited now. Unless it's somebody like Brian Hill.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where I'm at this point in my life, where it's like you're doing so much research and you're doing so much, tape watching and all of those things that I'm like, yeah, this guy is, and like other people be like, who is that guy? How is he not a sleeper? And it's like, oh yeah, you know what? He is a sleeper. God, let me think about this here for 1 second. Let me give you a guy in round 9 or 10 that could pop. Martellus Bennett.
No.
I think Martellus Bennett is, to me, well, first of all, I penned a frickin' love letter to Martellus Bennett practically.
Yeah, I saw that.
A few weeks ago. But to me, I think he's a guy, he's the most athletic. He's the best. Quite honestly, I think he's just straight up the best tight end that Aaron Rodgers has ever played with. And I think that marriage, as we saw in the playoffs, Aaron Rodgers likes to utilize the tight end in his offensive attack, right? So, he likes to hit that seam. He likes to hit you underneath. And if it's a matchup problem on the outside, if you're going to put a nickel on Martellus Bennett, game over. game over. So we saw Martellus Bennett be extremely effective last year. I think if he gets pummeled, with even 90 targets, which is, I think, very doable in that Green Bay offense, I think this is a guy that's going to be pretty much a lock to be a top 5 tight end in fantasy. And I got to be honest with you, man, I just think he's got the athleticism and that offense. I just think he could really pop. He could legitimately be, a top 1 or 2 guy at his position.
Now,
hey, Andy, I hate to cut this short, but I have somebody. I think I got my plumber coming in right now.
All right. James Koh, follow him on Twitter at James Deco, NFL Fantasy Live. Hey, appreciate you having me on. And, this will be a good cliffhanger. Part 2 coming up later.
Part 2 coming up later. All right, thanks, Andy. I appreciate the time, man.
Yep, see you, brother.
Real awesome, fun stuff there from James Koh. And, yeah, like I said, my interest in fantasy, it's peaked early this year. Usually I don't get into it around July, but now I'm doing all my reading and gonna grab the draft nasty Corey Chavis stuff. Well, no, that's actual draft stuff. Yeah, just gonna grab a bunch of fantasy guides out there, and I'm sure Scott Fish, John Tuvey, in fact, the fan ball is back. That's gonna be some pretty exciting stuff. I'm definitely going to get it dialed in this year, and thanks a lot for coming along for the ride. Although you never want to hear about another person's fantasy team, so I'll scale it back appropriately. But yeah, we're gonna have some good times. Oh, also good times getting a good night's sleep, and yeah, you can have some other good times on your mattress. I mean, come on. Lisa Sleep shipped straight to your door, plus you get 100 nights to decide if it's for you, and if it's not. The minuscule chance that Lisa Sleep is not for you, you can send it back within 100 nights, no questions asked. And the wife and I have been sleeping on this for a couple months now, like 4 or 5 months, and we love it. It's firm, it breathes, it doesn't move around when your partner gets up and down, because I'll admit, I'm a late night urinator, and before at our old box spring mattress, the wife would bounce up and down to wake her up as I'm making these frequent trips to the bathroom. Too many liquids at night. Oh, I'm like Fuller from Home Alone. Yeah, with the rubber sheets. I'm Fuller from Home Alone. And yeah, this doesn't do that. And here's also what we do. Lisa.com/purpleftw. And if you use the promo code Andy, ANDY, get $75 off your order. And plus, I believe their summer sale is still going on right now. So you can double dip the chip. That's $100 off. So you get $175 off your mattress. Any mattress. Any friggin' mattress you want. Lisa.com, LEESA.com. Hit it up, promo code Andy. All right, so wrapping up the week tomorrow. Got a studio show. We'll do some top 5 with Uncle Nick. Maybe we'll do some more cover songs, because it's so weird that having Nick as a sidekick, because we literally did that all the time in college, where he would just strum chords of a well-known song, and I would make up fairly inappropriate lyrics to it, and it's just something fun off the cuff that we did all the time, and kind of weird that it took so long to get on the show. But maybe we'll just run it straight into the ground, as I do with all my bits. Yeah, should be a good time. Get the show, iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and check out our YouTube channel. Plus, if you enjoy us, the best way to support us is by telling a friend, spreading the word, getting it out there. And you know the weekend. You hang out with friends and family. You run out of things to talk about. I mean, so Twins are pretty good. Yeah. Talk about me. Talk about the beautiful Asian Andy Carlson with his golden brown, almost crispy skin and complexion. He looks so good. Yeah. And add to the Jerome Homie Army. And thanks, producer Allie Jerome Sorensen, for making me not sound so stupid today. But for James Koh, I'm Andy Carlson saying annyeong, sayonara, and bye-bye. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Thanks for listening to Bull with Andy Carlson, Minnesota's 87th best daily podcast. Download the show on iTunes. everyone's middle name is Jerome.
Andy Carlson here, Purple for the Win podcast, letting you know that we'll be here all off-season long talking the Vikings angle on everything. Combine, pro days, free agency, the draft, OTAs, training camp in 2017. Baby. Get the show on 1500 ESPN, Podcast One, and the Podcast One app.